Hi again and welcome to another movie plot. In a time of skyrocketing unemployment and economic collapse, private corporations have obtained prisons and started streaming live gladiatorial fights on pay-per-view. Like the bloodthirsty Romans, the public soon grew tired and wanted to see their modern-day chariots. As a result, the 3-day high-octane showdown called Death Race was born. Convicted felons compete across a Mario Kart-style racecourse to win their freedom from the hell that is Terminal Island. If an inmate can win 5 races, they're promised their freedom by the prison's cruel warden Hennessey. We begin the film with the masked racer Frankenstein on the final quarter-mile stretch after already winning 4 in a row. His Mustang, known as the Monster, is tailed closely by his only surviving competitor, Machine Gun Joe. He goes through navigators like cannon fodder and cuts a tally into his face, a total of his victims, while Frank's partner Case rides shotgun for her 5th time and is expected to fix any problems the monster faces like a jammed minigun. With Joe directly behind him, Frank's defensive weapons malfunction, so he has no other option but to release the 6-inch solid steel shield called the Tombstone. Joe fails to be deterred, and with his fuel tank now exposed, Frank tells his navigator to eject and save herself as Joe fires his rockets, landing a direct shot on the monster. On the outside, a former NASCAR driver, Jensen, tries to provide for his family, but the factory he works at is closing. The angry employees receive their final paycheck and a large riot ensues, which Jenny gets in the middle of. Afterwards, he returns home with only $300 to his devoted wife Suzy and their newborn daughter. Shortly after going to get cleaned up, a masked assailant enters, knocking Suzy unconscious and jumping Jensen from behind. The man leaves, giving the husband the finger guns, and Jensen recovers to find his wife stabbed to death and he's been framed for the murder. 6 months later, Jen's convicted and sent to Terminal Island, where he's hosed down and treated like crap by the primary guard, Mr. Ulrich. Jen's first night inside sees him beat his roommates unconscious when they attack him, then get harassed by the Aryan Brotherhood the next day in the cafeteria. Their leader Pachenko insults him for being a lady killer, then gets his own ass kicked before needing his boys to back him up. Ulrich breaks it up and takes the new inmate to meet Hennessey, who's interested in Jensen's track record. She reveals that Frankenstein died on the operating table and that he was so popular that she wants Jensen to wear the mask and take his place. Since the original Frank already won 4 races, Jensen will only have to win a 5th, and Hennessey promises he'll have his freedom. With the Aryans breathing down his neck, Jensen accepts and gets taken to the leader of his new maintenance crew, Coach. The only other inmates who will know that he's under the mask are the rest of his team, Gunner, and a mentally handicapped fraudster named Lists. They present to him the new Mustang with its twin-mounted miniguns that'll only be activated on race day when he drives over pressure plates, as well as defensive weapons such as oil smoke and napalm that'll all be active when he hits the shields. To boost ratings, the warden's also building a war machine, though they can't see behind the curtain to study its weaknesses. On the yard, the crew introduce the new Frank to notable contestants including Grimm, a certified psycho who believes the warden to be an avatar of death and drives a Chrysler 300. A triad in his Porsche named 14K because he killed 14 people during the gladiatorial death matches, and another former NASCAR driver, Travis, in his Jaguar, all of whom have won 2 races each, except for the Russian Pachenko in his Buick Riviera, who like Joe has already had 3 wins. They're given women for navigators to increase their ratings, except for Joe, who's only given men because he gets them killed so much that all of the female deaths made people uncomfortable. The race is split into 3 stages, with the first seeing the arrival of a bus full of navigators hauled over from the women's prison. Case meets the new Frankenstein, who's the only other person to know that he's really Jensen, as the rest of the drivers aren't allowed to speak with him by orders of the warden. The moment the shutters are up on the monster, Jensen's able to remove his mask and hears from Case that she's in prison for killing her abusive husband. Hennessey oversees the live stream, expecting to pull 45 million viewers in a day, and the moment they start, Frankenstein's rivalry with Machine Gun Joe continues. Pachenko uses caltrops to send Grimm into a barrel roll, and 14K uses his missiles to destroy the Chrysler, but Grimm stumbles out onto the track until Joe follows it up with the most gruesome kill of the movie. Pressure plates called a death head litter the course, which activate traps that rise up to instantly total the recipient. The monster's defensive napalm mysteriously malfunctions again, just like before, forcing Frank to use Case's ejection seat to defend himself by covering Travis's Jag in the fuel. Case throws the Mustang's lighter and the flames cause the racer to slow down, getting himself crushed by Joe trailing closely behind. Before the race, Jensen noticed that prisoners are given the same device that his wife's killer wore when being allowed outside, and when Pachenko gives Frank the finger guns, it distracts him, getting the monster taken out of the race by Joe. He finishes in last place but survives, and deduces that Hennessey hired Pachenko to kill Suzy, but she just doubles down when confronted. She uses her sawed-off directed at his balls and daughter as leverage, to convince Jensen to race again by threatening to have her disappear into the adoption system. Afterwards, the team discover that the monster's defenses are still completely operational, meaning that Case must have sabotaged the original Frankenstein like she just did Jensen. The driver and coach become close friends, with neither supposed to be in prison, since Jen's innocent and coach qualified for parole years ago but is too afraid to assimilate into the real world. He says that nobody could look at their daughter the way Jensen does if he had really killed her mother, and believes him that Hennessey had her killed to have a professional racer replace Frank. That night, Jensen gets attacked by the Brotherhood, who doesn't care what the warden's intentions are for him and just feel disrespected. Before being bludgeoned to death, Liz stabs Pachenko in the back, giving Frank the chance to fight back, where he dismantles the entire gang in seconds. The leader admits that it was he and Ulrich who killed Suzy at the behest of Hennessey, but Jensen's unable to exact his revenge as he's tasered and told to save it for the track tomorrow. On day 2, Frank primarily plans on killing Pachenko, but first drifts behind and threatens to eject Case into a roof if she doesn't admit to her sabotaging his predecessor. She says that Hennessey lied that she would sign her release papers if she didn't use defenses, but never meant to get him killed. Jensen believes her and uses the nitrous to catch up to the rest of the pack and hunt down the Russian. Despite being in front of him, Frank chooses the weapon and the two trade back and forth, with the monster going in reverse, but with the Buick too heavily armored, Jensen has to resort to trickery by using a smokescreen to cause Pachenko to crash. For the first time in death race history, Frankenstein exits his monster and executes the assassin with his bare hands. Just then, Joe gets a chance to kill his already dead rival, but his navigator makes one bad call with a weapon plate and that's it for him. He picks up another one who's forced into the passenger seat and rejoins the race, where Hennessey unleashes her secret creation called the Dreadnought to pump up the ratings. The 18-wheeled tank conversion tears apart two unnamed racers with its Browning M2s, while keeping up with the others by taking shortcuts only available to the hulking menace. It takes its time on the Porsche by using Boudica spikes to shred its way into 14K's navigator, before catching him in its chains and using its M1 Abrams turret to obliterate the triad. Only Frank and Joe are left alive, and after Joe loses another navigator by no fault of his own, the two decide to team up. They both overtake the semi and trigger a death head that folds the dreadnought onto itself, destroying the Mad Doctor's creation on its very first day. Frankenstein and Joe are praised by the inmates and no doubt the public, though we never see their reaction. Because of the voice, Joe deduces that the new mechanic that he's been calling Igor this whole time is really Frankenstein, but shows him respect enough not to jump him with the boys and wants to beat him on the track. Before the final race, Hennessey signs the papers for Jensen's freedom but asks him to consider staying on permanently as Frankenstein if he wins, which would be considerable given the current dystopian nature of the world and lack of jobs. Though this is just a ruse to keep his mind on the race, as she's had Ulrich plant an explosive on the monster with the intention of never letting a prisoner win 5 races. It's unknown if Jensen believes the warden's offer or plans to follow through with the escape he's planning with Coach, especially since he'll need the Rams RPGs to assist, and Joe seems to turn down his offer to help him escape. The head-to-head begins with Joe getting his expendable and Case acknowledging a small handle installed in the dashboard. It seems even less likely that they'll join forces when the race starts, and Ulrich shuts down all of the plates for Jensen but allows Joe to activate his weapons, thinking that he'll use them against Frank when the monster drops the tombstone and reveals the fuel tank. Joe fires his RPGs past the Mustang, blowing a hole in the weakened wall, result of Grimm's Chrysler. The two escape side by side while police are called by the dozens to pursue them, and Hennessey learns that her explosives already been found and disabled by the mechanics. While traveling across the bridge from the island, Jensen has Case pull the lever, dropping a second fuel tank that explodes into a barricade, facilitating their escape. Joe and Frank split up, with Hennessey stupidly ordering every officer to target her monster, while Joe slips away and begins feeling immortal when another close call kills yet another navigator. Feeling bad for betraying the original Frank, Case offers herself up as bait and remains inside the monster while Jensen leaps out after a corner. The innocent man escapes with a legitimate serial killing sociopath into society, as Case dons the Frankenstein costume and gets herself captured in dramatic fashion. Although furious about the escape, the warden wins again by having earned millions of extra dollars from the pay-per-view sale skyrocketing. She receives an anonymous gift that contains her own bomb that Coach uses to kill both Hennessey and the nearby Ulrich.
I love this game.
6 months pass and Joe's now living honestly in Mexico with Jensen as mechanics. Suddenly they're alerted to a Chevy speeding into the lot, but Case steps out saying that she just had trouble getting her release and won the Chevelle in a card game. Jensen thought hard about whether he could offer his daughter the future that she deserves, but ultimately decided that no one would love her more than he does and that he's not letting go of his chance to be better. And the movie ends.